Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Calvin We the Species in a continuing series paying homage to the upcoming Garden State Film Festival. The last few years, I've been doing extensive, intensive, wonderful interviews with actors, directors, writers, composers, actresses, the whole package, which I love doing because it gives me a chance to meet some amazing, amazing, talented people like Bryant Carroll that we've been bonding a little bit before he went on air because Brian right now is in Ohio and I went to before I went to Rutgers. Everybody knows I went to Rutgers. I went to University of Toledo for 2 years. Fell in love with Ohio, and it was just a happenstance. I could have absolutely spent my rest of my life there, happy happy, but life is funny and it doesn't work out that way. And I wound up coming home. But so as soon as I saw, Euclid, Ohio, and then as I began uh, doing my due diligence and looking at Brian's work, and especially why we're here to talk about Nowhere Good, which is going to be showing a short and proof of concept and stuff at the Garden State Film Festival. I was really got into this, and I was actually trying to pry out some answers from Bryant just a few minutes ago, and I stopped. So this is really special, and I'm just looking at Bryant's resume. He'll tell you about it. I mean, the stuff he's done is like wow. I mean, what a resume, I mean, your journey, and you'll talk about that. I mean, to start with ballet and now you're directing for the first time. I mean, it's quite a journey. It's a journey of dedication and commitment and really special, the stuff they write biographies about, you know. So, this was my Johnny Carson monologue, which is now over, even though there was no humor here. So, Brian, why don't you kind of take it away a little bit, do a little background, and then we're going to talk about Nowhere Good and
Good.
stuff.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I'm Bryant Carroll. I am an actor, producer, filmmaker, director. Um, I have been in the, let's just call it general entertainment industry since I was a kid. I did musical theater, was a ballet dancer, had a rock band, was on Broadway, lived in both LA and New York. Um, I'm currently on a bunch of TV shows and in a bunch of movies that you can see on pretty much all platforms: Netflix, HBO, Amazon. And I'm currently based out of Cleveland, Ohio. So I've been back here for about 10 years, and I wanted to bring character driven stories. Uh, I wanted to, bring character driven stories out of Cleveland, Ohio to the masses. So, you know, I got my hands on this script and I talked to my buddy, Alec Goodhurst, who's the writer, and asked him if I could run with it. And he said yes. So, last January, I kind of I started my company, Everyday Boots Productions, and we went into pre-production and shot Nowhere Good last March.
Wow, wow.
And so now it's in festivals and going to be at Garden State Film Festival on March 28th. It's a Saturday at the Berkeley Oceanfront ballroom on the second floor in the BC 28 block
Right,
from 9 to 10:45 p.m.
right. Now
Right?
it is.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, so I always like to ask this, where did the story for Nowhere Good come from? I know you mentioned the writer.
Yeah.
Uh,
So when I was living in New York, um, Alec and I had become friends. We had started working together on a couple other projects, and uh, he wrote this piece called Nowhere Good, and we did it as an off Broadway play, like off Broadway. and had a very short run, but was well received. And then, about a year ago, he contacted me, and we hadn't spoken for a while, and said that he had turned it into a screenplay, and he had turned it in, written an entire screenplay, but also had it as a short. And I read the short and asked him if he was cool with me running with it, and making it, and he said yes. So I started making some phone calls and pulling my team together, and and then we made it. So
Okay, so you have two impressive leads in Kim Rhodes and
yes.
Jacob Ware. Uh, how did you, how do you get, I mean, really accomplished to join your
Okay.
team?
So I met Kim Rhodes in LA. We were neighbors in an apartment complex, and our dogs were best friends, and we
Ah,
became best friends.
ah,
And so I've known Kim Rhodes for about 25 years almost.
wow.
Yeah. And we go way back. We stay in touch. She now she does she was on Sweet Life. She was the mom on Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, and the sheriff on Supernatural, and she's been on Criminal Minds. I mean, she has a career that's just been incredible. And she actually, funny thing is she retired, and I pulled her out of retirement. I sent her this script, and she was like, I definitely want to do this. So yeah, so I brought her to Cleveland, and Jacob A. Ware, people know him from like Boardwalk Empire and Fallout, and what is it? I think NYP. No, uh, I forget. New York Undercover, or one of those shows. But he and I were working on a movie together where we were part of the cast, and we just became fast friends. And he's originally from Cleveland.
Oh,
Yeah, his grandparents actually lived in the same apartment complex as my dad did. So at some point when he was growing up and when I were growing up, our paths must have crossed because we were always
yeah.
in that apartment complex. So, um, but yeah, the minute I read the script, I immediately thought of him, and I sent him the script, and he was like, I'm down to play. So right there, I had my two leads,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
and then I filled the rest out with with the people that I know here, and that I taught, because
Mm-hmm.
so
Okay. Um, why shoot in Euclid, Ohio?
well, because it's funny. I was talking to some other producers, and everybody's like, "Oh, you shoot this in New York. You shoot in New York, right?" And I could have done it in New York, but it would have cost me like three times as much to make in New York. And this story, to me, isn't necessarily a New York story. It can be in anywhere America, and Cleveland is um, Cleveland's a blue collar town. We're salt of the earth people, and these characters, I felt like, were coming from this place. So, and also, I mean, I wanted to showcase where I grew up, a little bit, and these characters fit right in to Euclid and Cleveland. It's just they're the same type of people. So um,
Okay.
that's really why.
Okay. We touched on this briefly before we went on air.
Mm,
Uh, this is your first directorial project.
yes.
Why direct? Why not act?
Um, well, for this project, I wanted to focus on just being a director, and I only wanted one job, and that was to direct the movie, to focus on the performances, to make sure that things moved smoothly and that I wasn't uh, trying to put on too many hats because I've worked on projects where the director also is an actor in the movie or a writer in the movie or
Hard.
he's producing it, and it's a lot,
It's
I
hard.
think. And I think I just wanted my first directorial debut to be specifically focused on just the directing.
Okay. But I found it in my notes, and I'm looking here in interesting a point of information. You're actually in something else too that's coming in the Garden State Film Festival. You you got a couple things.
I do. I'm in a movie called Plucked, that Usher Morgan and Katie Vincent wrote and directed. I'm also in a movie called Ashes of a Dream that Joe Nuzello directed,
Wow.
acted, and starred in, and produced. So yeah, both. What is it? Ashes of a Dream is showing on Sunday at 2:30 to 5:05, and then Plucked is showing from 6 to 8:30 Saturday
Hmm.
before our movie shows.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's kind of
So
cool.
yeah, so I'm excited to be there and to get to see these movies that I'm in because I haven't seen a frame yet.
Right.
So
Right.
I'm curious to see how it all turned out. They're both getting a ton of awards, which is
Great.
I'm very proud to be
That's
a part.
great.
Yeah, thank you.
Truly.
Thank you.
Truly. You know, I marvel at our world, the world of indies.
Hmm.
I'm self-published. I'm indie. You're indie,
Yeah.
and that's where my heart lies. I'm true blue indie, and I've been marveling at the growth and the awareness and the visibility of indie filmmaking. I forgot the indie film that won the Academy Award.
Mhm.
Oh, well, yeah, their budget was it's still being an indie. They still had a budget of 3 or 4 or 5 million, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, you, you are in such a wonderful place now, future-wise, as the world of content and the world of production is exploding.
Hmm.
And so that must put you in a nice mood because you're in a good place. It's not easy, but you're in a good place. And you're going in Jersey, Netflix, because you're in stuff on
Hmm.
Netflix. Netflix is plucking down $1 billion to put a studio about 10 miles away from where you're going to be in Asbury Park. I know Lionsgate plucked down another billion, and somebody else plucked down $1 billion in South Jersey. So Jersey is may become like the number two.
It is. I mean, it really is. There's a lot. I've actually, in the last probably 6 years, I've filmed in New Jersey at least 6 or 7
Wow,
times. Yeah.
wow. Well, if
Yeah.
you're ever looking for a 6'5" extra,
Oh, I'm giving you a call, my friend.
give me a
Don't you
call. Hey, actually, I went to Central Casting after I was in that Meryl Streep movie.
worry.
After I turned down Steven Spielberg twice, it went to my head, and I went to Central Casting in New York, to be an extra.
Yeah.
And within a week, they called me, and I actually got a gig. It was a new TV show. It was a hospital thing. Oh, a New Amsterdam.
Oh, yeah. I
It
remember
was
that
New
show.
Amsterdam, and they called me. Uh, they called me, and I was so excited. They were doing a shoot. It was a 12-hour shoot. They were just filming this day. They were just filming the opening montage
Hmm.
or the credits and stuff.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, I'll do it. So 6 hours. There was one scene, and fortunately, I was sitting in the hospital lobby as an extra with a little kid who's presumably my son. and it was it was a 6 hour shoot but at least I was sitting. And then the next shoot, they did the hospital lobby, and I wasn't sitting. I have bad knees, so when they
Mm.
weren't looking, I said, "I'm sitting down," and I sat down, and nobody bothered me. And then after 12 hours, they took us upstairs to feed us,
Mm.
and I'm always last. So by the time I got upstairs and waited in line, and I got up to the food, and I don't eat meat and stuff. There wasn't anyway. There was no food left. So then I said to myself, I talk to myself sometimes. I said, Calvin, your career as an extra is now officially over. I'm done. And they called me a few other times, and
Yeah.
um, anyway,
Well, I'll make sure to give you lines.
yeah, yeah,
So
sure,
we'll get you in and out real quick.
sure. Hey,
You know,
I
feed you, make sure your
I
belly's
love it.
full.
I love everything about it.
Yeah.
I was just curious. I know there's always stories behind things. Everyday boots. Where did that come from?
Everyday boots. So I've always, I used to have bands back in the day, and I'd name them these crazy names and stuff. And when I was thinking about, when this whole thing started with Nowhere Good, I had to come up with a name. And I was talking to my girlfriend at the time, and we were going through names, and I was like, and at one point, I was like, maybe it should be tied to the fact that I wear boots all the time, because I only wear boots. I don't wear tennis shoes. I only wear boots. And she's like, yeah, maybe something like, I don't know, everyday boots. And I went, that's actually perfect.
Like that.
So I ran with it and created a logo with my team, and it's working out pretty well. So
Cool. Cool.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. I want to go off topic. There's a couple of Calvin questions I like to ask before
Right.
we do some more stuff. Um, uh, I borrowed this from Barbara Walters, one of my favorite journalists. So
Mm.
here goes. And kind of it's kind of a little way you look into the soul, I guess. I don't know. So, Brian, excluding family or friends, somebody living or dead you'd like to spend a day with, and there could be one or two or three answers. There's no rules here.
Paul
Um,
Newman and Robert Redford
wow,
together. I want to have a
wow,
beer with both of those guys.
wow. What do I love that answer? I love that answer. Why? Because in that cabinet there, I swear to you,
Mm.
60 days go by and I'm watching this thing. I absolutely love that movie, and I watch it like 6, 7 times a year. It's
No,
the chemistry, between them, and I've read so much about it. It just the story great. They had such a great friendship.
hmm
Um, Actually, there was one of them, I forgot who it must have been Redford played a practice joke on Paul. They had some kind of a sports card and he had it completely destroyed, and he had that card deposited, I think, on Paul Newman's lawn. Uh, it's funny. They did just absolutely marvelous. Great answer. Great answer.
well, and
Um,
the funny thing is that I actually the template that I was using for Nowhere Good was Color of Money, the
oh,
Paul Newman movie with Tom
wow,
Cruise. Yeah.
wow. Okay.
So like all those the dolly shots and the movement with the camera, that was that was a lot of my inspiration for what we did for Nowhere Good.
Okay. Wow. And thank God Paul got, his Academy Award finally.
Yeah,
And he should have gotten it. I mean, I'm such a huge fan of
yeah,
Paul Newman for so many reasons. You
same.
know, Newman's Own and giving away, 800 million bucks. I watched. I love Paul Newman. And that
Mhm.
kind of. And I watched a documentary. There was a great multi episode documentary on Paul and Joanne's
Yeah,
life.
I think that was on HBO. Ethan Hawke.
Yeah, yeah, Ethan Hawke did it. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's exactly right.
it,
Marvelous.
it was fantastic.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Absolutely the insights.
I watched it multiple times.
Okay.
It's
I
over that, like,
loved it, loved it, loved it.
yeah.
And you know, he did I think his last movie was Nobody's Fool.
Hmm.
Uh, uh,
Great movie.
Great movie. Even that scene with Melanie Griffith, you know,
Hmm.
and uh, it nailed him. You know, he played Donald Sullivan, you know,
Hmm.
an aging, and I've watched that movie a million times too. I love it, love it, love it. Uh, 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 because it's so real, and it's just a precious, wonderful character study. Great movie. Speaking of movies, do you have a collection of a few favorites that you like to watch? I know Color of Money must be up there.
Yeah, Color of Money. I The Sting is one of my favorite. The Hustler. Um, what else? Smokey and the Bandit. Just Jackie Gleason
Yeah,
and Burt Reynolds and Sally Fields. I mean, I love Sally Fields.
I know.
Love her. I've
Yeah.
watched pretty much. I think I've watched everything she's ever made. Um, so yeah, I mean, current day Harrison Ford. He's another guy that I just. I mean, have you been watching him on Shrinking by any chance?
No,
Oh,
no, no.
Shrinking. You
No.
got to check that out. It's on
I'm
it's on
writing it
Apple,
down.
it's on Apple TV, and man, is that show good. It's so good. It's funny. It pulls at your heartstrings at times, and he's just fantastic. And actually, this new season has Michael J. Fox in
Wow,
it as well.
wow.
And so it's pretty cool to see Michael J. Fox
Yeah,
back
yeah.
on a show
It's
for
so
a minute.
nice.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
the other morning, I do reels in the morning. To when I get up, I don't jump out of bed. I watch reels, and there was a
Mhm.
reel pop. Whatever pops up, there was Harrison Ford giving an acceptance speech. He was a lot. He won a Lifetime Achievement Award recently for something.
Hmm.
I
At the
forget.
SAG Awards.
That's it. And
Yeah.
and he gave such a marvelous speech,
Yeah.
marvelous, and so real, and he really, you know, he was really taken back and really emotional. It was a
Yeah.
great speech, and I loved that, and I marvel at his career. You know, he was a carpenter.
Yeah.
You
He
know,
didn't really get his first break until he was 40.
yeah, yeah. So that's why I think there's hope for me. You know.
And me too.
Okay, all right. So, okay, back uh, um, to some notes I have here. So
Mhm.
the film Nowhere Good centers on an aging grifter confronting her past and stuff,
Mhm.
uh, uh, and kind of difficult. And what drew you to wanting to explore a character at that stage of life, an aging?
What did so I for one thing, I've listened to uh, f- female actresses for a long time say like after 40, we're done, we can't get work, blah blah blah, and it's true. I mean, a lot of them, if you look at television or even films, you know there's literally a few women out there that are consistently coming back and playing the matriarchs or these women that are over 50, and I wanted to showcase somebody that I knew that I thought have always thought was a brilliant actor and give them a role that had a lot of meat and grit to it. And so that's why I reached out to Kim. Like I said, I mean, I wanted to explore the you know how an how a woman of that age would move through the world being a grifter, and what kind of what would happen if somebody from her past all of a sudden shows up out of nowhere and is like, hey, you know, we I've got some issues with you, and let it unfold. So that was, that was pretty much the reasoning behind me doing this film was, exploring all of that,
Yeah.
exploring those avenues.
Which is which hey, the baby boomers, there's an awful lot of baby boomers are getting to that age level, and more concentration, and I think is a noble undertaking to explore us, enough with the Gen Zs and the millennials and all that stuff.
Right.
So the protagonist she spent a lifetime grifting. Do you see her as a villain or a survivor or something? And I'm not trying to pry anything out of you. I'm not being devious that way. Or a survivor. I mean, that's a complicated character.
It is. I believe there's multiple sides to her. So, you know, and that's what I was trying to explore. I have Kim explore while doing the role, is that, you know, there's certain people that she encounters that she handles a different way than she would, you know, other people that she encounters, and watching that the subtle switches happen, you know, it was what I wanted to capture, and what I, and talking to her, we spent a lot of time, her and I, just talking about Samantha, and why she did what she does, and why she wound up where she did, and how she's maneuvering through the world now, and and how she would handle somebody confronting her, from her past. So, it was, we spent a lot of time
Hmm.
trying to map all that out. And, once we got it on film, I was like, all right, we're good, we're done. Like,
Yeah.
you
You
know,
really had a challenge because you're directing, and it's a complicated, heavy script and story. And your first time directing, you have to guide characters
mhm.
to portray I guess morally gray areas. It's a tough, it's not an easy, what I'm trying to say is it's not an easy directing.
Yeah, but I agree with you, but I also attribute it to casting the right people. I mean, uh, I like I said, when I first read this after, years of not seeing it, the first two people that came to mind were Kim and Jacob. And I knew, I've known Kim, like I said, for 25 years. So I've seen her work. I know her as a person. I've seen, she, we've seen each other through the good and the bad over the last 25 years. So I've gotten to see all facets of her.
That's great.
And, with Jacob, I haven't known him as long, but in the time that we have known each other, we've created a very fast and furious friendship. And we're brothers in arms, and so it just made it easy for me because, once they rehearsed and we talked about all the nuance that we needed, I just let them run, you know? And I mean, honestly, I would get lost at times just watching them on the monitor because I would be so into it, and then somebody would have to like nudge me because I just keep letting that tape roll. I'd be like, oh, okay, we can cut now, we're good, but yeah.
Okay. So as you're filming, are there visual or stylistic things? And again, I'm kind of shooting from my hip here that you have to employ to capture what I'm perceiving is a hell of a lot of psychological tension here. Do you
Mhm.
have to use certain techniques to capture that tension?
I mean, like I said, Color of Money, Martin Scorsese movie, Color of Money, that was a huge template for me. Grifters was a huge template. The camera movement helped with the telling of this story. It creates tension in certain areas, and we were able to capture um, very intimate. I find intimate, uh, a very intimate slice of life with the cameras, the camera that we use. And that's a credit to my DP Ryan Forte, who's a Cleveland guy as well. I mean, I specifically gave him a list of movies that I to reference and to consider stylistically how to incorporate that into
Mhm.
Nowhere Good as a whole vision. And I think he did an incredible job, especially in the short amount of time. We shot this in 2 days.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
2 days. We had two locations in 2 days, and the first day was like our longest day. So the second day was a little more run and gun, but I mean, for 2 days of shooting, I think we did pretty damn well.
Wow. That's really amazing. Um, Looking back at your whole, and you said a lot of your whole creative journey. I mean, you've done it all. Were any particular things, anything that really like helped to shape you where you're at now, or is it the montage of everything you've done from ballet on up?
I mean, it's kind of a montage. I've been lucky. I've gotten to work with some really great people. I've gotten to be on some really um, big sets and see how the big dogs do things, which has been good. But I've also been on some incredibly smaller projects that had directors that had such an ease about them, and that's the thing that I was trying really to create, is that our sets were relaxed and easy. There was no, it's funny. I don't um, I don't say action. I don't say cut either. Like I do a completely different thing where it's like, you know, and I think it worked out well. I think being on those, being in so many different facets of the entertainment industry throughout my life has given me so much. Like dancing gave me movement and visual. The visual concept of seeing something big on a stage. Same with Broadway. And then taking that and incorporating some of that into filmmaking with the movement of the camera. Like that's a dance. You're doing a dance with your actors, with the camera. And so it creates like a whole vibe. And I just, that's what I enjoyed, mostly now, is like if I get to be on a set that's got an easygoing vibe and everybody's just showing up and doing their job to the best of their ability and there's no drama, that's what I want every single day. You
Yeah,
know,
I'm
so
listening to you, Brian, and so I just thought of something. Does your style, and I'm just shooting from the hip again,
mhm.
does your style that's laid back, no action, no cut, no this, but does your style, this warm, friendly, directorial style, help to elicit better performances from actors and actresses?
I mean, I think so. I really do. Because it takes away the pressure, you know. So, sometimes you can be on a film set and you walk into a palpable pressure. You can just feel it immediately hit you. And then you kind of get, oh shit, like you get rigid and you start freaking out internally, trying to keep everything calm on the outside. But, I want to do my best ability to eliminate all of that so that people just walk in and it's like, hey, it's like coming home. You know what I mean? It's like everybody's, hey, how's it going? What's going on? All right, are we ready to have some fun? Let's go have some fun. No stress, right? And try and make that happen to the best of my ability. I mean, now granted, not every day is like that,
Sure,
but
sure.
you walk in with that mindset and then you set the tone for the entire team, you know. And I've been on some great film sets where immediately the first thing they do in the morning meeting is they gather the whole team around, and everybody goes around and says what they're grateful for the day,
Well,
just to kind of like set up how the day is going to go. And I've worked with some great ads that they don't yell. They stay on time and they make things happen without having to freak everybody else out. So I mean that's the ultimate goal for me. I
okay.
think.
Your thing with directors, as I get a little bit more sophisticated in my old age, I start to really appreciate what you guys do. And I'm talking about Casablanca now. Michael Curtiz, it's 1942. Nevertheless, the work, the artistry
Yeah.
of what went into that, the use of shadows. I mean, I've read a lot about this, and it actually kind of spurred me on to want to see more of his movies.
Mhm.
So I've become a fan, of directors and I mean, they're so gifted. And, like Rembrandt, you're
Mhm.
painting a picture, so I have this enormous respect for directing because there's so much to it. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Basically, I mean, if you think about it, you have to know the story inside and out well enough so that if anybody at any moment comes up and asks you a question, you have an answer for them right away. You know, and meanwhile, also, making sure that every department is pulling their weight and doing what they need to do to make the day, and make sure the actors are, if an actor comes in frazzled, then it's like figure out how to get them unfrazzled. If they need a minute, let them go take a minute and then come
okay.
back. You know,
Yeah,
it's all puppet mastering.
yeah, right. The marionette kind of
Yeah,
thing. Yeah, the cover of The Godfather, the marionette.
exactly.
Yes, the manipulation. Although manipulation is a bad word sometimes.
Eh,
Yeah, it's the creativity of a director, and so I'm a big fan
yeah.
of what you do. Last thing, of course, it's kind of an old an old kind of question. What would you hope people take away, after they view uh, uh, from
No,
uh,
we're good.
yeah,
Yeah. Um, what do I want them to take away? I want, you know, I want them to have questions. I want them, I didn't make this short to be wrapped up in a nice, neat little bow at the end. I want you to walk away thinking and going, whoa, wait, so hold on, what's 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 going to happen now? And you'll have to wait and see because
Yeah.
I got to raise the money to make the feature. but and to it's a these characters are are people
Yeah.
I think everybody has run into these people,
Yeah.
and so if you resonate in any way with it, I'm happy. you
Sure.
know
Well, I'm happy because this was a great looking glass to spend some time with you. Uh, it's funny. Um, I'm thinking of Forrest Gump and the box of chocolates, and
hmm
my mother said, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. And I didn't know you before this, and you don't know what to expect, and I can do some reading, but this was just a lot of fun for me. And the insights you gave me, your journey, this was good stuff, Brian.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's been an honor to meet you and a pleasure
Thank
to
you.
talk to you. I mean, I'll come back anytime you want me. So,
Please do.
yeah.
That's the last thing I'm saying. You have ideas. I'm working now. I just want to get some people together to talk about, I have a platform, and I have a podcast just to talk about Casablanca because it elevates. To me, and it's so few. It's funny when my son started dating his wife. uh, One of the 3, 4, or 5 dates when I felt comfortable enough that this is gonna kind of last. We
Mhm,
sat down at the kitchen table. I said, you're coming into this family, and my son's going into your family. I do have one requirement. She said, what's that? And she looked at me like really seriously. I said, well, there's 3 or 4 movies I need you to watch with me. She said, what do you mean? I said, well, you're gonna have to watch Casablanca,
mhm,
and you're gonna have to watch From Here to Eternity, and there's more going on. But that's how I felt, and that's the power,
yeah.
uh, of film, and the it could do so much good, especially in a crazy and mixed up world. And so meeting you and your journey, this was great stuff for me. And yes, I would love to put together things, and because my belief is the more we share, the more we throw out there. In that book I wrote, 10 Things I Learned from the Billionaire. One of the things I learned from him is that this area, and this guy's a billionaire. Uh,
Mhm,
the area between these two earlobes, this whole thing, it's a really kind of a funny thing. And you want to get somebody to really know something and learn something, you got to repeat it 10 times.
mhm,
And on the 10th passage, it gets stuck in a quicksand here, and you learned.
yeah.
And so to talk about film and get it, we all know film and this, but there's so much more for people to learn. So yes, I'm here. I'd love to do stuff going forward. It'd be great. So I'm going to stop recording. Don't leave. I love this term. We're going to 2 minute wrap. But thank you so much, Brian. I only wish you good things.
Thank you, Calvin. Seriously, it's
Yep,
been
great stuff. Great stuff. Okay, end of recording.